week week 5, and today is grammar day, being day 1. So the first thing we're going to look at in our grammar day is something called misplaced and dangling modifiers. Now, you may not have seen these words before, and you may not even know what a modifier is. But a modifier is something that provides detail in a sentence. And misplace and dangling. So for now, dangling means missing the target. And these will make sense once I show you the example. And misplaced means too far away from the target. So keep these in mind. We're looking at modifiers today, things that describe and provide detail in a sentence. Details. So let me show you what I mean. There are 4 sentences here. So I'll show them to you. So the first one is right here. It reads, "One morning I shot an elephant in my pajamas." So that's one. Number 2 is waiting for the bus, comma, the time went by slowly. Number 3 here, kids with gas eat free. And number 4, taped to the wall, Margaret read the note. So if you read these sentences as they are now, you might find them weird or funny, and the pictures show you what kind of mistakes is happening. Let's start with sentence 1. So, sentence 1. One morning, this man, apparently, shot an elephant. Now, the modifier here is in my pajamas, because it adds detail to the sentence. The subject here is I, and then shot is the verb, and then an elephant is the object. So, the question is whether this modifier in my pajamas, that is wearing the pajamas, is talking about this guy, the elephant, the man, and the subject, or is it talking about the elephant, the object? Now, because the modifier is placed right after the sentence, so you have an elephant in my pajamas, you would think that it was some guy who shot an elephant I can't draw elephants right now, and the elephant was wearing his pajamas. Now, you might think about where this modifier should be placed. And this one is a misplaced modifier. And we'll explain that more in a minute. But you can see here, this is the picture showing, oh, the elephant is wearing the man's pajamas. Let's look at number 2. With number 2, you see, okay, there's a clock in the picture, and the sentence reads, waiting for the bus, the time went by slowly. Here, the time can mean time, like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 1 year, 2 years, or here is talking about something that measures time, or in this case, the clock. If we just read the sentence, the time went by slowly, you could interpret it 2 ways. One, it's saying, oh, something took very long. Like you waited for a long time. You waited for a long time. Or, like the picture, it's saying maybe the clock, which measures time, walked very slowly. Oh. Slowly. So, we know that the writer is trying to say, well, you, or the person who is waiting for the bus, waited for a long time. But here, because the modifier is too far away from, actually, there's no person here. The person is missing. We don't know who is waiting for the bus. So this is called a dangling or missing dangling modifier. This target is missing. So the person who is waiting for the bus, that's the target. We don't say subject because this sentence does have a subject, but that's not who we want to talk about. We want to talk about some person. So that's why it's called a dangling modifier. As you can see here, the target now becomes the clock, which makes it kind of funny. Let's look at the third one. So the third one here, may or may not know gas can mean gasoline or petrol, something you put in your car to make it run, or gas as in like farting. So if we use the second meaning for gas, then it will be, let's say this person here was like a kid. Well, if the kid is farting, then that kid can eat for free. However, this one is probably saying if the parent buys gas from the store, then that's gasoline. Parents buy gas in the store, their kids eat for free. So as you can see here, again, it's missing the target, no target, the parent. That's missing. And it's too far away too. It's also misplaced. And it's not the kids that have gas, it's the parents who has kids and they buy gas and their kids eat for free. So you can see sometimes if you use too few words of a modifier, the sentence can get confusing. Okay, and here's the last one. We got taped to the wall, Margaret read the note. Here we can see the modifier, taped to the wall. Now you know it should refer to the note, but because it's right before Margaret, we see here, oh, it's Margaret that's taped to the wall, and she's reading the note while being stuck on the wall. So you probably want to put taped to the wall next to the note. So maybe it reads something like Margaret read the note, and then you have the modifier that. Oh, don't need a ruler. That is, so we have that, and then the modifier taped to the wall. Okay, so we had 4 examples, 1, 2, 3, and 4 examples of where you can have dangling and misplaced modifiers that can change the meaning of a sentence. Now, some of you have done this in the grammar quiz, and others have done it in their assignments. So this is why we have this lecture for you, to help you place the modifiers, whether you're using introductory phrases or transition words in your essays, that you would make sure you have a target and you place it right after or before the modifier. And I'll show you what that means. To review, modifiers are words, phrases, and clauses that add description to a sentence. So if you're not sure what phrases and clauses are, you can click on these as well. I'll show you what the phrase is and the different types of phrases that you can put, so you can read this in your own time. Now, no matter which phrase you use, if you use it as a modifier, you should follow the rules that would help you say what you want to say in your sentences. And here's the one for clauses as well. And you've probably seen this already in week 2. Independent clauses, dependent clauses, and then other types of clauses. So you can also read this in your own time. Okay, back to modifiers. So when you are writing clear and logical sentences, the modifier should be right next to, so it's either in front or behind the target words. And usually, well, that's your intended subject, the subject you want to talk about, that they would describe. So here we read this sentence: horrified, Mom snatched, that's took, the deviled eggs from Jack, whose fingers were covered in cat hair. So we have 3 modifiers here. We have horrified, that's 1. Deviled, that's 2. And whose fingers were covered with hair, that's 3. It's an adjective phrase that describes Jack. He's got cat hair all over his fingers right now. So it's kind of dirty, not clean. So notice here, horrified describes you got horrified, and that describes the mother. She's horrified about something, about her son. And you got deviled, and that's describing the eggs. It's a type of egg. I'll show you what that looks like later. And we have whose fingers were covered in cat hair, and that describes Jack. And you notice that the modifiers, these words right here, they're right next to the intended subject, the target words. It can be intended subject or object. Horrified goes with mom, deviled goes with eggs, and whose fingers are covered in cat hair goes to Jack. So if you imagine, for example, we wrote this wrong, whose fingers were covered in cat hair. Mom snatched the horrified eggs from deviled Jack. So if you misplace the modifiers, obviously you're going to have a totally different meaning in the sentence. But sometimes it's not as obvious as that. Oh, and just in case you're wondering, deviled eggs look like this. See? This egg's cut in half, and then you have more eggs on top of it. The yellow that's mashed eggs. It's actually tasty, very tasty. So let me show you what I mean by modifier mistakes that are not so obvious. So the first type is the dangling modifier. The dangling modifier is where the target is missing. So here's an example. You got hungry, these are the modifiers. You have only one noun there, and that's the leftover pizza, and it was devoured. That's your verb. However, we don't know, we have no subject, first of all. We can assume it's a person, but it's not in the sentence. So hungry goes with the leftover pizza. So it would be like this pizza the pizza was hungry. And at the same time, somebody ate the pizza. Now to fix this, you add the target word. So here instead you got a pizza, and then you have students. Students, and they ate the pizza. So notice whether you are using active or passive voice, remember to put the modifier right next to the target. And if there's no target, you need to add in the target words. Here you notice, again to review, the hungry goes right next to leftover pizza. But we're really talking about people. So you need to add students or something, or the people. And that's called a dangling modifier. You're missing the target words, and so to fix it, you would need to add the target words, your intended subject or object. And here's the next type, the other type for today, and it's called misplaced modifiers. Now, misplaced modifiers, they do have a target, but the modifiers are too far away in the sentence from the target. So again, the target is there, but it's too far away. So your modifiers can be single word or multi-word phrases or clauses, and remember, they should go right next to the target here. Target words. So here's an example. Gazing out the window, Paul missed the homework assignment that Professor Sarby wrote on the board. So here, the logical target is Paul, because that's right next to the modifier, and there's nothing before it, so it has to be Paul. However, if you read the sentence word for word as it is, it's like, oh, well, Paul missed the homework as he is looking out the window. So he's just looking out the window, and when he's doing that, he's missed his homework. So this is a sort of in the moment type of thing. Right now. Something that's happening right now. So Professor Zari wrote something on the board about a homework assignment. And then, well, he's missing it because he's looking out the window. However, this modifier is misplaced because it's too far away. And what we're really talking about is when the professor wrote it on the board, probably, let's say, a week ago or something, and they had time, he had a week to finish this assignment, but he missed this homework assignment. So here, gazing out the window, the modifier, needs to go with the time where the professor was writing on the board. So we move the modifier from the beginning of the sentence to match with Paul. Instead, now we move it to where it should be, or where the writer wanted to put it, as, oh, he missed the assignment because, let's say, a week ago, he was not looking at the board when the professor told him what he has to do for homework. So here, let's say a week ago, he was looking out the window. So the professor was trying to show him, this is your homework, but he wasn't paying attention. So now Paul, well, he's got nothing to hand in. So why? Because he missed his homework because he was gazing out the window. So again, if you have a modifier that is too far away from the target and it's not logical, then the meaning of the sentence would be different. So here are some sentences that would help you practice fixing dangling and misplaced modifiers. Now remember, dangling modifiers are missing target words in the sentence, and misplaced modifiers is too far away from the target. So let's try the first sentence. We'll try one at a time. Use the space here for sentence 1. Oozing slowly across the floor, Marvin watched the salad dressing. So we have two nouns here. We got Marvin and we have salad dressing. Now, looking at the modifier oozing slowly across the floor, if it's placed right next to Marvin, then it's like Marvin is oozing slowly across the floor, and we don't know what the salad dressing is doing, but he's apparently watching it. But it is Marvin who is oozing slowly across the floor. So instead, we want to place the modifier next to salad dressing. So it can either go before or after. In this case, we put it after because we're describing the salad dressing that Marvin is watching. So instead, we would write, Marvin watched the salad dressing. Now we change the verb a little bit. Ooze slowly across the floor. Now you could also use oozing, it's fine. But to be safe, when you're watching something happen, or you watch something happen, you would use a simple present to describe something that is happening in the past that you're watching. So here we read, Marvin watched the salad dressing. That's done. And then the modifier is placed right next to the intended object, the target word, which is salad dressing, which makes more sense now. Marvin maybe is sitting down and he dropped the child that's just resting, and it's just oozing slowly across the floor, like that. Okay, so that was sentence 1.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, because I was just.
Well, let's try sentence 2.
I just have Friday in Alberta, so I just wanted to make sure.
Coming out of the market, the bananas fell
So does that mean the money will be
on the pavement.
Okay.
So here again we have the modifier, and there is a target word, so that's the bananas. So again, since the modifier is placed right next to the bananas, it's not only misplaced, but
No, I think I'll pass on the gender.
it's missing actually. We don't know. We don't know who came out of the market. Like bananas can't move by themselves, so it's a dangling modifier. So instead of saying the bananas, let's just draw 3 bananas, and they were coming out of the market, and they fell. Bloop. They fell down. So instead, it's probably people that dropped the bananas while they were coming out of the market. So we have to change this one a little bit. So maybe something like we dropped So you can still keep the modifier. For example, coming out of the market, we dropped. So that's my verb change for fell. But instead it is people, let's say us. We dropped the bananas. Bananas onto, so instead of on, because we're changing the verb now, onto the pavement. So here it is people that is coming out of the market. So the modifier now has a better subject to modify. That's we as people, because people can walk and go in and out of markets. Instead, the bananas were dropped by people. So we say we dropped the bananas onto, because we need to use the right preposition there with the pavement. So instead of bananas falling down, we have people dropping bananas. So that would make more sense as a sentence. To fix that, we have a better target. All right, a couple more to go. So we can read the next one. She handed out brownies to the children stored in Tupperware. So if you read this one, see if you can figure out what the modifier is. If you put stored in the Tupperware, that's correct. Now what is stored in the Tupperware? Brownies or children? So here we have lots of target words, but because it's placed right next to children, you'd think the children are stored in Tupperware. Tupperware are those lunch boxes that are made out of plastic or glass that you put food in. So little brownies stored in the Tupperware like that. So instead of brownies, you'd have children stored in Tupperware, which doesn't really make sense. So instead, to change this sentence, you might say something like this. She handed out brownies so we need to add a bit more here, that are stored in Tupperware. So we have the modifier, my modifier here, stored in Tupperware. Now you can't just say brownie stored in Tupperware. You could actually, but to be safe, you can put brownies that are stored in Tupperware. So either way, you can read it as brownies stored in Tupperware, or brownies that are stored in Tupperware. It's up to you. But notice here, stored in Tupperware is at its proper place now, next to brownies, to the children. So this one was a misplaced modifier, and you fix it by moving the modifier to the right target words. So now we have brownies in Tupperware boxes instead of children, which makes more sense. Okay, you can read the next one. I smell oysters coming down the stairs for dinner. Now, the modifier for this one is coming down the stairs for dinner. So, I smelled, subject, verb, the oysters, object. So, this one again is very similar to the bananas sentence. So, you got little oysters, and apparently they have legs, and they're coming down the stairs for dinner. So, they can walk and eat. So, again, instead, you would want to move the modifier to I. So because you can see this phrase coming down the stairs for dinner reads like an introductory phrase, you would probably want to place that before the letter, the I. So you might read something like this. Coming down the stairs for dinner. I smelled the oysters. Which makes more sense. It's a person walking down the stairs and the writer, well, that person, smelled the oysters. Which is probably something that you look forward to. Alright, 3 more to go. Driving like a maniac, the deer was hit and killed. Again, the modifier is driving like a maniac, and it looks like the deer this time. Again, I can't really draw deer. The deer is driving. Uh-oh. Watch out. But instead, it is the deer that got hit and killed. So, this sentence really doesn't make sense because how can the deer drive and get hit at the same time? So we're missing the target here, which is some driver. And so we had a dangling modifier. So we need to add a target word. So might read something like this when we add a target in. So we can keep the modifier where it is. Like a maniac. The driver hits a deer. Oh, that's D-E-E-R, deer, and killed it. So here we have the modifier driving like a maniac that is placed next to the driver. So that makes more sense now. And we can also change the sentence a little bit to say the driver hit the deer and killed it. So now we have the intended subject, which is the driver. So we fix the dangling modifier there. So as you can see, dangling and misplaced modifiers can happen quite a lot, especially when you're taking a narrative course or you're describing things that happened. In your research and argumentative research paper, you may use these, so be careful when you have modifiers as well. With his tail held high, this is sentence 6, my father held his prize poodle around the arena. So again, modifier is with his tail held high, and it really belongs with the prize poodle. But because it's placed next to my father, now it's like the father has a tail and he's showing his prize poodle around. It's like a person with a tail leading a dog. But really, it's the dog that has his tail held high. The dog is proud. So, you might read to change it, you might need to write something like this by placing the modifier in the right spot at his prize poodle. So, my father, and keep this part, led his prize poodle, and then we can add the modifier, with his tail held high That's my father led his prize poodle, again with the modifier, with his tail held high around the arena. Here we have the modifier, and right now it's placed right next to the poodle, so that makes a lot more sense. It is the dog that has the tail, and that is being led by the father. Alright, last one. This one's pretty funny. That's a sentence. I saw the dead dog driving down the interstate. So this one, the modifier is driving down the interstate. Again, a dead dog can't drive, so you need to fix this misplaced modifier by placing the modifier next to I. So it would read something like this. Driving down the interstate, I saw the dead dog. Again, you got the modifier, and it's placed right before I, where it should be. So again, that's how you fix dangling and misplaced modifiers. And remember, dangling modifiers are missing target words, so we don't know who you're talking about. And misplaced modifiers are too far away from the target, so it gets confusing. So with dangling modifiers, to fix it, you need to add the target. Adding a target. And for misplaced modifiers, you want to move it, fix by moving the modifier next to the target. Okay, so that's it. So the next time you want to use introductory phrases or modifiers in your sentence, whether it's one word or phrases, make sure you place them right next to the thing that you want to describe, which is the target. And if you don't have a target, you make sure you should add one. So that's how you fix dangling and misplaced modifiers. Alright, so if you have any questions, you can post in Canvas or email me directly in week 5. Okay, so yeah, this week is very light in terms of content, but you should focus more on writing your argumentative research paper. Alright, we'll see you soon.